The air in Blackwood Lane always felt heavy, like invisible hands were pressing down on your chest. Liam was a man of simple habits, but those habits ended the moment he saw the box. It wasn't just a box, it was a coffin-shaped wooden crate sitting on his porch. There was no stamp, no return address, just his name written in what looked like dried, dark brown ink. It smelled of old formaldehyde and wet earth. When he cracked the lid open, a puff of cold, metallic-smelling air hit his face. Inside, nestled in black velvet, was a doll. It was terrifyingly detailed. It wasn't made of plastic or porcelain. It looked like it was made of preserved flesh. The doll was an exact replica of Liam, down to the small mole under his lip and the jagged scar on his chin from a childhood fall. But the eyes were real. They were wet, glassy, and yellowed, fixed in a permanent stare of agony. As Liam touched the doll's arm, he realized with a jolt of horror that the hair on the doll wasn't synthetic. It was human hair, rooted deep into the wooden scalp. That night, the silence of his house was broken. He heard a sound that made his blood turn to ice. The sound of something small and heavy dragging itself across the floorboards. Thump, drag, thump, drag. It was coming from the living room where he had left the box. Liam stayed under his covers, trembling. Then, he felt a weight on the end of his bed. The mattress depressed as if someone, or something, was sitting there. He looked through a small gap in his blanket. In the moonlight, he saw the doll. It was sitting at the foot of his bed. Its mouth, which had been closed before, was now stitched open with thick, rusted wire, revealing rows of tiny, sharp human teeth. It wasn't just sitting there, it was breathing. A low, wet wheeze filled the room. Liam realized the teeth in the doll's mouth were vibrating. It was whispering his name in a voice that sounded like 1,000 dying insects. Liam, we are almost ready for the skinning. Liam tried to move, but his body was paralyzed. The doll leaned forward, its wooden neck cracking loudly in the silence, and whispered, "Don't blink." He likes it when they watch. Morning didn't bring any light to Liam's soul. He woke up with deep, purple bruises on his ankles, exactly where a small pair of hands would have gripped him. The doll was gone. He ran outside, desperate to talk to anyone. He went to his neighbor Sarah's house. Sarah was a cheerful woman, always gardening, but her garden was now dead. The flowers had turned black overnight. He pushed her front door open. "Sarah?" he called out. No answer. The house was freezing. In the kitchen, a pot of tea was boiling on the stove, but the water had turned into a thick, red syrup. On the kitchen table sat a new doll. It was wearing Sarah's favorite blue dress. Liam's stomach turned when he looked closer. The doll's skin had the same texture as Sarah's. It even had her small tattoos. But the doll's limbs were elongated, twisted into shapes no human bone could survive. The most horrifying part was the smell, the sweet, cloying scent of a butcher shop in the summer heat. Suddenly, a wet, tearing sound came from the living room. Liam walked slowly toward the noise. He saw a trail of skin, long, thin strips of it, leading toward the basement door. He followed the trail, his heart hammering against his ribs. On the floor, he found Sarah's wedding ring, still attached to a severed, bone-white finger. He looked down into the darkness of the basement. A pair of long, pale hands reached out from the shadows. These weren't the doll's hands. These were the hands of the collector, 9 feet tall, with fingers that had too many knuckles. The collector was holding a needle made of human bone. He was sewing Sarah's hair onto a new wooden frame. Sarah wasn't dead. Her head was sitting on a pedestal, her eyes wide and moving, her mouth missing the skin but still trying to scream. The collector looked at Liam, his face hidden behind a mask made of multiple different faces stitched together. "She was too loud," the collector hissed. "I had to take her voice first." He held up a small glass jar. Inside, Sarah's tongue was twitching like a dying fish. Liam realized that the collector didn't just kill, he preserved the pain. Every doll in this neighborhood was a living, feeling person, trapped in a shell of wood and wire, feeling every second of their eternal rot. Liam tried to flee, but the front door of Sarah's house was gone. Not locked, just gone. In its place was a solid wall of human teeth, thousands of them, fused together to create a barrier. He was trapped. He turned back toward the hallway, and the house began to change. The walls started to throb like a beating heart. The wallpaper peeled back to reveal raw muscle and veins underneath. He found himself in a long gallery he didn't recognize. On both sides were glass cases. Inside each case was a masterpiece. One case held a man whose body had been folded into a perfect cube. His eyes were located where his ears should be, and he was covered in a layer of clear resin that kept him alive and suffocating forever. Another case held a child whose limbs had been replaced with rusted clockwork gears. The gears turned slowly, tearing the child's flesh every time they rotated. The child's eyes followed Liam, pleading for a death that would never come. The collector's laughter echoed through the hallway. It wasn't a human laugh, it was the sound of bones breaking. You see, Liam, beauty is found in the breaking. I take the messy, fragile human and make them permanent. I make them art. Liam stumbled into a room filled with tools. There were saws with teeth made of obsidian, jars of acidic bile, and rolls of thread made from dried nerves. In the center of the room was a chair made of spines. The collector appeared from the ceiling, dropping down like a giant spider. His long, spindly legs clicked on the floor. He gripped Liam's face with his cold, clammy hand. "Your skin," the collector whispered, his breath smelling of ancient graves. "It's so elastic. It will stretch so well over the frame I've built for you." He pulled out a small blade and made a tiny nick behind Liam's ear. Liam didn't feel pain at first, only a strange, icy cold. Then, the collector began to peel. He didn't use force. He used a slow, rhythmic tugging. Liam watched in the mirror as the skin of his own neck began to slide down, revealing the red, weeping tissue beneath. He tried to scream, but the collector pushed a wooden peg into Liam's throat, silencing him instantly. "Don't worry." The collector smiled, revealing a mouth full of jagged metal shards. "The first layer is always the hardest to lose." Liam was now strapped to the chair of spines. He was still conscious. The collector had injected him with a black fluid that heightened his senses. He could feel every microscopic tear in his muscle. He could hear his own blood dripping into a bucket below. The room was filled with other projects. In one corner, a woman's torso was being fused to a wooden rocking horse. Her rib cage had been cracked open to serve as the saddle. The collector was busy at a workbench, humming a distorted lullaby. He was carving a new set of legs from a dark, heavy wood. Every time the chisel hit the wood, Liam felt a sharp, stabbing pain in his own shins. He realized the collector had linked their nerves together. The doll wasn't just a copy, it was a biological extension of the victim. The Pinoy legends speak of the Tikbalang and the Manananggal, the collector said, his voice echoing in Liam's skull. But they are amateurs. They eat the meat and leave. I keep the meat. I celebrate the meat. He picked up a heavy mallet and began to strike Liam's knees. Crack, crunch. The bone shattered, but the skin didn't break. The collector wanted the internal structure destroyed so he could reshape the legs into the graceful, curved limbs of a Victorian doll. Liam's mind began to fracture. He saw visions of his brothers. He saw his younger brother, so tall and strong, and he felt a wave of pure terror. The collector noticed his thoughts. Yes, the tall one. He will make a fine soldier for my collection. Imagine those long legs, snapped and reset, reaching all the way to the ceiling. The collector leaned in, his stitched face mask inches from Liam's. "I sent a box to your brothers today, Liam. A small box with a small doll. By the time I am finished with you, they will be arriving at my door, looking for you, and I will be waiting with my needles." The collector then took a handful of salt and rubbed it directly into Liam's exposed neck muscles. The agony was so intense that Liam's heart stopped for a second, but the black fluid forced it to start again. He couldn't even faint. He was forced to endure every second of the transformation. The collector began to sew the first wooden joint into Liam's shoulder, the thick needle passing through bone and sinew with a sickening pop. The collector whispered to the empty room. "Now, we begin the real carving." The basement floor was no longer concrete. It was paved with human kneecaps, smooth and yellowed. Liam was no longer a man. He was a project. The collector took a long, thin hook and inserted it into the base of Liam's spine. With a slow, steady pull, he began to extract Liam's nerves, one by one. They looked like glowing white threads. "A doll must move," the collector whispered, "but it must not move on its own. It must have strings." He didn't use nylon or silk. He used Liam's own nervous system. He attached the ends of the nerves to a wooden crossbar hanging from the ceiling. Every time the collector tilted the bar, Liam's arms or legs would jerk violently. The pain was like lightning bolts exploding inside his brain. Because of the black fluid, Liam's mind couldn't shut down. He was trapped in a state of permanent superawareness. He could feel the air hitting his exposed nerves, a sensation so painful it felt like being burned alive every second. Around him, other marionettes were hanging from the ceiling. He saw a man whose skin had been replaced entirely with polished porcelain shards. Every time he moved, the shards cut deeper into his meat. Next to him was a woman whose eyes had been removed and replaced with clockwork magnifying glasses. She was forced to look at her own dissected body in high definition for eternity. The collector then brought out a tray of accessories. He picked up a pair of heavy, iron boots that were red hot. "Your feet are too soft, Liam. A centerpiece must stand tall." He forced Liam's mangled feet into the burning iron. The smell of frying flesh filled the room, mixing with the scent of old wood. Liam's silent screams caused his chest to heave, but the collector had already replaced his ribs with rigid bamboo sticks. His chest couldn't expand. He was suffocating, but the black fluid kept his heart beating. "There," the collector said, admiring the charred, metallic feet. "Now, you can stand on the pedestal without wobbling." The collector then turned to a map on the wall. He placed a pin on a location. It was the house of Liam's brothers. "The tall one is coming, Liam. I can hear his heartbeat from miles away. It's so rhythmic. I think I will use his heart as the ticking clock for my workshop." As the transformation continued, Liam's hunger became a torture of its own. But he had no mouth to eat with. It was sewn shut with rusted wire. The collector walked over to a large vat of gray, bubbling liquid. "A doll does not eat food, Liam. A doll consumes memory." He took a long syringe and inserted it directly into Liam's temple, into his brain. He began to withdraw a shimmering, violet mist. As the mist left his head, Liam felt his memories vanishing. He forgot his mother's face. He forgot the smell of rain. He forgot his own middle name. The collector took the syringe and injected the memory mist into the wooden frame of a new doll. The wooden doll began to twitch and giggle with Liam's childhood laugh. Liam was being hollowed out, his soul being poured into a piece of dead timber. The collector then brought in a guest. It was the doll of Sarah, but she wasn't just a doll anymore. Her head had been sewn onto the body of a giant, many-legged centipede made of human fingers. She crawled up the wall, her eyes weeping black oil. "She is hungry," the collector said with a twisted grin. "And you are the only meat left that hasn't been cured." The finger centipede that was once Sarah crawled onto Liam's lap. It began to nibble on the raw edges of his skinless thighs. Each bite was small, surgical, and agonizing. Liam could see the fingers that made up her body wiggling in excitement. The collector watched, fascinated, taking notes in a book bound in human hair. "The interaction between the subjects is vital," he muttered. "It creates a better patina on the wood." Suddenly, the basement door at the top of the stairs creaked open. A voice called out. It was Liam's younger brother. "Liam, are you down there?" The door was open. The collector's eyes lit up with a demonic joy. He looked at Liam's frozen, wooden face. "Look at the door, Liam. Watch your brother walk into the trap. If you could cry, I bet your tears would be beautiful right now." The collector pulled a lever, and the stairs turned into a slide coated in razor blades. The sound of Liam's brother falling down the stairs was a series of sickening thuds and the metallic ring of the razors. When he reached the bottom, he wasn't dead, but his beautiful, long legs were sliced to the bone. He lay there, gasping, looking up into the darkness. "Liam, help me." The collector stepped out of the shadows, his 9-foot-tall frame looming over the boy. "He cannot help you, little brother. He is part of the furniture now." The collector grabbed the brother by his hair and dragged him toward the workbench. Liam watched from his pedestal, his nerve strings vibrating with a helpless rage. He wanted to scream, to warn him, to die, but he was just a doll. The collector decided to be creative. He didn't want two dolls that looked the same. He took a heavy bone saw and began to cut the brother's long legs off at the hip while he was still awake. The screaming was so loud it shook the jars on the shelves. The collector then took the brother's legs and sewed them onto Liam's waist, removing Liam's own charred stumps. "Now you are tall, Liam, just like you always wanted." The internal rejection was immediate. Liam's body fought against the new limbs. The collector laughed and poured acid over the stitches to melt them together. He then took the brother's torso and began to graft it onto the back of Liam's neck, creating a two-headed, four-armed monstrosity. A brotherly bond, the collector whispered, fused forever. One to look forward, one to look back. The brother's face was inches from Liam's. They were forced to look into each other's eyes as their skin was melted and fused into a single, leathery shell. The collector then took a bucket of hot, liquid wax mixed with crushed glass and poured it over both of them. As the wax hardened, it trapped them in a permanent embrace of agony. Their breathing became a single, labored wheeze. The collector stood back, wiping blood from his bone needle. Almost perfect. Just one thing missing. The final polish. The final part of the transformation was the most horrible. The collector took a jar of soul varnish. It was made from the distilled screams of 1,000 victims. He began to paint it over the fused bodies of the two brothers. As the varnish dried, it became transparent and harder than diamond. Liam and his brother were now encased in a tomb they could never break. They could see out, but no sound could ever get in. The collector moved the brother doll to the center of a large, dark room. As the lights flickered on, Liam's heart, if he still had one, would have stopped. The room was a massive, infinite warehouse. There were millions of dolls. Some were shifting, some were weeping, some were slowly eating their own wooden limbs in hunger. "You see, Liam," the collector said, looking directly into the camera lens, "I don't just collect bodies. I collect audiences. Everyone who watches your story, everyone who hears your screams, they leave a little piece of their soul behind. And when they leave a piece, I can find the rest." The camera zooms in on Liam's glass eyes. Inside the reflection of the eye, you can see the room you are sitting in right now. You can see your own face reflecting in the screen. The collector's hand reaches out toward the camera, his long, needle-tipped fingers touching the glass of your phone or monitor. "Did you enjoy the story?" the collector whispers, his voice coming from behind you, not from the speakers. The ending is simple. Liam is still there. He is feeling the wax burn his skin right now. He is feeling his brother's heart fail against his spine. And he is watching you. He is watching you through the screen. The collector leans in so close that his stitched skin mask fills the entire frame. If you don't want to join my collection, if you don't want to feel the needle and the thread, you must show your support. Subscribe, like, share. Maybe if you bring me enough new souls, I will let you stay in your skin for one more night. But look at your doorstep tomorrow morning. If there is a wooden box, don't open it. But we both know you will. Everyone wants to see what's inside their own coffin. The screen goes black, but the sound of a slow, wet wheezing continues for 10 seconds. Then, a tiny, high-pitched voice, Liam's voice, whispers one last thing. He's standing right behind you. The collector now has your digital footprint. If you don't want to find a wooden box on your porch tomorrow morning, hit subscribe right now and comment, "Not me," to stay out of his workshop. Don't leave your skin's safety to chance.